Hey guys, tonight we're plunging headfirst into the warm, steamy, slightly oily waters of ancient Rome. Imagine, if you will, the gentle hum of voices echoing off marble walls, the splash of water, the faint scent of olive oil, and something vaguely herbal hanging in the air. You're standing, perhaps a little bewildered, in the grandest public amenity the ancient world ever conceived, the Roman bathhouse. It's not just a place to get clean. It's the epicenter of Roman social life, a daily pilgrimage for citizens from all walks of life. You're here to socialize, to exercise, to relax, and perhaps even to conduct a little business. But let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive a day without a guide, and definitely not without a few awkward moments involving a strigil and some very public exfoliation. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, drop a comment below with where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always fun to see how far these sleepy historical journeys travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step through an imposing archway, leaving the dusty, cacophonous streets of Rome behind. The transition is immediate. The air inside is warmer, humid, and carries a faint, earthy aroma. The sounds of the city fade, replaced by a symphony of gentle splashes, hushed conversations, and the occasional grunts from the exercise yard. You notice the sheer scale of the place first. These aren't just glorified public showers. They are sprawling complexes, often covering acres, designed with an almost obsessive attention to detail and flow. You might find yourself in the baths of Caracalla, for instance, a colossal structure capable of accommodating thousands of bathers at once, a veritable city within a city. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for such grandeur was public health, social control, or simply a display of imperial power. As you orient yourself, you realize the bathhouse experience is far more intricate than simply getting clean. It's a carefully orchestrated ritual, a daily pilgrimage that might consume a significant portion of your afternoon. You begin, perhaps, in the palaestra, an open-air exercise yard. Here, young men, and sometimes older ones too, are wrestling, throwing javelins, or playing a game not unlike handball. The atmosphere is energetic, a stark contrast to the languid relaxation that awaits. You might even spot a senator, his toga carefully folded nearby, working up a sweat alongside a common laborer. It's one of the few places in Roman society where, at least temporarily, strict social hierarchies seem to blur. Then, once you've worked up a decent sweat, or perhaps merely a polite sheen, you're ready for the main event. But first, you'll likely head to the apoditerium, the changing room. Imagine rows upon rows of small niches carved into the walls, where you'd stash your clothes. There are no lockers with combination locks here, mind you. You're relying on the honesty of your fellow Romans, or more realistically, the watchful eye of a designated slave. One quirky tidbit. Some bathhouses had small, almost hidden alcoves where you could ostensibly leave your valuables. But theft was a common complaint, proving that even in ancient Rome, sticky fingers were a universal problem. You'd carefully fold your tunic and perhaps even your sandals before heading deeper into the complex, eager for the warmth and the water. From the apoditerium, you'd then follow the gentle pull of the warmth, moving into the tepidarium. As the name suggests, this is the warm room, a transitional space designed to acclimate your body to the rising temperatures. The air here is comfortably balmy, a pleasant precursor to the intense heat that awaits. You might linger, stretching out on a marble bench, or simply allowing your muscles to begin their unwinding process. This wasn't just about physical relaxation, it was a social hub. Imagine hushed conversations, a gentle murmur of voices, the clinking of small bronze implements. This is where you'd catch up on the day's gossip, discuss politics, or simply observe the parade of Roman life. It was common for Romans to spend hours at the baths, making it a central pillar of their daily existence, far more than just a quick dip. You'd likely have a slave, or perhaps a trusted friend, carrying your necessities. A strigil for scraping, a small flask of olive oil, and maybe a towel. This brings us to one of the more unique and frankly odd aspects of Roman bathing: the cleansing ritual itself. Forget soap as you know it. The Romans used oil. You'd rub yourself down, or have your attendant rub you down with olive oil, sometimes scented with perfumes. This wasn't merely for moisturizing, it was part of the cleaning process. The oil would trap dirt, sweat, and dead skin cells. Then, the real magic happened. You'd take your strigil, a curved metal scraper, and very deliberately, very publicly, scrape all that oily grime off your body. It sounds a bit like an ancient spa treatment gone wrong, doesn't it? But it was entirely normal, a daily occurrence, and surprisingly effective. Historians still argue whether this method was truly hygienic, or if it simply spread around existing microbes. The atmosphere in the tepidarium is one of unhurried leisure. You see men, and if you're in a mixed-sex bath, women, strolling around, engaging in animated debates, or simply enjoying the warmth. It's a testament to Roman engineering that the temperature could be so precisely controlled through their ingenious hypocaust system. Beneath the marble floors, hot air from furnaces would circulate through hollow spaces and up through flues in the walls, creating a remarkably efficient form of underfloor heating. This was a technological marvel, allowing for these vast, warm, and often humid environments to exist even in colder climates. It's the kind of subtle genius you might take for granted, but it was revolutionary for its time. As you become more comfortable, you might notice vendors circulating, offering snacks or small trinkets. This wasn't just a place for personal hygiene. It was a bustling marketplace, a miniature city within the larger urban fabric. You could grab a quick bite, maybe some figs or a small pastry, or even indulge in a little light gambling with dice. The sounds are a gentle mix. The murmur of conversations, the rhythmic scraping of strigils, perhaps a distant splash from the swimming pool. It's a symphony of relaxation and low-key activity, designed to help you shed the stresses of the Roman day. You'd slowly feel the tension ease from your shoulders, preparing you for the more intense heat to come. The experience was about gradual progression, a deliberate unwinding of mind and body, a far cry from a quick modern shower before rushing out the door. Having thoroughly acclimated in the tepidarium, you now prepare for the true heat. The next logical step in your bathing ritual is the calidarium, or the hot room. The moment you step through the doorway, a wave of intense, moist heat envelops you. This room is a crucible of steam and warmth, designed to induce a profuse sweat, purging impurities from your body. You might find yourself momentarily disoriented by the thick, humid air, but quickly you adapt to the sensation. Often, there would be a large, circular marble basin called a labrum filled with cool water, used for splashing yourself to provide a temporary respite from the heat or for a quick rinse. The sound of water dripping, combined with the soft hiss of steam, creates a uniquely soothing, almost hypnotic auditory backdrop. The architectural genius behind these heated spaces is truly remarkable. As mentioned, the hypocaust system was the heart of it all. Imagine furnaces stoked by slaves, sometimes burning around the clock, sending hot air through a network of elevated brick pillars beneath the floor. These pillars supported the heavy marble flooring, creating an empty space through which the hot air would circulate. Flues embedded in the walls would then draw the heat upwards, warming the walls themselves. This wasn't just about heating the air. It was about heating the very fabric of the building, creating a radiating warmth that enveloped bathers from all sides. It was an incredibly sophisticated form of central heating, millennia ahead of its time, showcasing the Romans' mastery of engineering and their dedication to public comfort. Historians still argue whether the primary fuel source for these massive furnaces contributed significantly to deforestation in ancient Italy. You might notice various niches and alcoves carved into the caldarium walls, perhaps for individual ablutions, or just to lean against the warm stone. The light in this room is often diffused, filtered through high windows or even small openings in the domed ceiling, creating a soft, almost ethereal glow within the steam. The sheer scale of these rooms could be immense. Imagine towering ceilings, often vaulted, designed not just for aesthetics, but also to help condense the steam, causing it to run down the walls rather than dripping directly onto bathers. It's a design element that reveals a profound understanding of thermodynamics, even if they didn't call it that. For those seeking an even more intense heat experience, some bath complexes also featured a laconicum or sudatorium, a dry sweating room similar to a modern sauna. Here, the heat was often more scorching and less humid, encouraging an even more vigorous sweat. You'd probably spend less time in these extreme areas, popping in and out for short bursts, allowing your body to sweat out toxins. The purpose of this intense heat was not just cleanliness, but also believed to be therapeutic, opening pores and promoting general well-being. It was the ancient Roman equivalent of a deep detox, a practice that continues to resonate with modern spa culture. One quirky tidbit: some sources suggest that Roman bathers would sometimes bring small sponges with them, not for washing, but to wipe away the constant rivulets of sweat, maintaining a semblance of dignity amidst the profuse perspiration. It certainly beats trying to discreetly wipe your brow with the back of your hand. After the intense heat of the caldarium, your body is thoroughly warmed, pores open, and a good sweat has been achieved. Now comes the main event for actual cleansing, the part where you really get clean, at least by Roman standards. This is where your strigil truly shines. Imagine holding this curved bronze or iron implement, roughly the shape of a modern banana, but with a sharper, dull blade on one side. You, or your attendant, would systematically scrape the olive oil, sweat, and accumulated dirt from your skin. It sounds, frankly, a bit barbaric to our modern sensibilities, akin to trying to clean yourself with a spatula. Yet it was the accepted and most effective method of hygiene for centuries. The collected gunk, often a mixture of oil, dust, and epidermal debris, would then be wiped away, leaving your skin feeling surprisingly smooth. This scraping ritual wasn't just practical. It was a visible part of the bathing experience. You'd see dozens, perhaps hundreds, of people around you engaged in the same activity, creating a strangely rhythmic scraping sound that became part of the bathhouse's ambient noise. It's a far cry from the discreet lathering of soap in a private shower. This public display of personal hygiene reinforces the communal nature of the Roman baths. You weren't just cleaning yourself. You were participating in a shared daily ritual that bound Roman society together. One quirky tidbit: there are historical accounts of Roman emperors having their sweat and scraped-off grime collected after bathing. Why? Because it was believed to have medicinal properties and was sold as a cosmetic or even a remedy for various ailments. Talk about a lucrative side hustle. Beyond the strigil, Romans also employed pumice stones for exfoliation, much like we do today, to smooth rough skin on heels and elbows. Perfumed oils and ointments were then applied, not just for fragrance, but also to moisturize the skin after the rigorous scraping process. Think of it as their ancient version of high-end skincare, though perhaps a bit more hands-on. The scents might include rose, jasmine, or various herbal concoctions, designed to leave you smelling fresh and fragrant, at least until your next visit. Historians still argue whether the consistent use of heavy olive oil for cleansing contributed to specific skin conditions among the Roman populace. While you might be focused on your own cleansing, you're constantly aware of the activity around you. The baths were places for lively discussion, casual meetings, and even professional networking. You could negotiate a business deal, catch up on the latest political intrigue, or simply engage in idle chatter with friends. It was a place where social barriers, though never entirely absent, were somewhat softened by the shared experience of bathing. You might see a wealthy merchant deep in conversation with a respected philosopher, both stripped down to their essential selves, the societal trappings temporarily put aside. This made the baths incredibly democratic spaces in a society that was otherwise rigidly hierarchical. With your skin scraped clean and perhaps a pleasant scent of applied oils lingering, you're ready for the final, refreshing plunge. Many Roman baths featured a frigidarium, the cold room. Imagine stepping into a large, often open-air, unheated pool filled with bracingly cool water. This was the shock to the system, the invigorating conclusion to your bathing ritual. The contrast with the preceding hot rooms was deliberate, believed to close the pores, tone the skin, and provide a final burst of energy. You might hear gasps and delighted shouts as people submerged themselves, the chill a welcome jolt after the warmth. The frigidarium wasn't just for a quick dip. Sometimes these pools were large enough for actual swimming. Picture a grand, almost ceremonial basin, often adorned with mosaics and statues, sparkling under the Roman sun or the diffused light of a high skylight. It was here, amidst the cool water, that you'd truly feel revitalized, the lethargy of the hot rooms melting away. The very act of plunging into the cold water, especially after a profuse sweat, was seen as both a physical and mental cleansing. It brought you back to alertness, ready to face the world outside the comforting confines of the bathhouse. One quirky tidbit: some very elaborate frigidaria would even have a cascade or waterfall feature, providing not just a visual spectacle, but also a soothing sound of rushing water, enhancing the tranquil atmosphere. Beyond the dedicated hot and cold rooms, the larger bath complexes were veritable community centers, offering a wide array of amenities. You could find libraries, perfect for a quiet read after your bath, or lecture halls, where philosophers and rhetoricians would hold forth on various topics. Imagine settling onto a comfortable bench, perhaps still feeling the lingering warmth from the calidarium, and listening to an orator discuss the finer points of Stoicism. This blending of physical and intellectual pursuits underscores the Roman belief in a holistic approach to well-being, a sound mind in a sound body. Historians still argue whether these intellectual spaces were genuinely accessible to all social classes, or primarily served the elite who could afford the leisure time. And then, of course, there was the food. While not full-blown restaurants as we know them, many baths had small stalls, or even more elaborate dining areas where you could grab a light meal or refreshments. Picture vendors offering freshly baked bread, olives, cheeses, or even simple stews. It wasn't uncommon to spend hours at the baths, and naturally people would get hungry. So you could refuel, perhaps with a glass of watered-down wine, and extend your social interactions. This integrated approach meant you could truly make a day of it, moving seamlessly from exercise to bathing to intellectual stimulation, and finally to a satisfying meal. It was the ancient Roman equivalent of a leisure complex, a place where nearly every daily need and desire could be met within its grand walls. Now, let's talk about the logistics of mingling in a Roman bath. For the most part, especially in the early Republic and much of the Empire, men and women often bathed separately. This could mean entirely separate bathhouses, or more commonly, designated separate hours for men and women within the same complex. Imagine the bustle of a bathhouse as the male bathers cleared out, making way for the influx of Roman matrons, accompanied by their own slaves and attendants. This system aimed to maintain a sense of decorum, though accounts suggest that not all rules were strictly followed, especially in the more boisterous public baths. Historians still argue whether the perceived separation was always as rigid in practice as the laws suggested. However, as time progressed, mixed bathing became more common, and for some, more controversial. This practice sparked considerable debate among Roman moralists, who often lamented the perceived decline in public modesty. You might encounter an era where mixed bathing was tolerated, even encouraged, leading to a much more integrated social experience within the baths. This flexibility in customs highlights the evolving nature of Roman society, where traditions were constantly being challenged and redefined. It also meant that the bathhouse truly became a melting pot, where different segments of society rubbed shoulders, quite literally, in a way few other public spaces allowed. The sheer volume of people flowing through these establishments daily was staggering. A large bathhouse could see thousands of visitors, from senators and equestrians to freedmen and slaves. This vast cross-section of society made the baths a unique social equalizer, even if temporarily. You might find yourself sharing a bench with someone whose social standing was vastly different from your own, discussing the merits of a particular gladiatorial contest or the latest political gossip. This easy mingling fostered a sense of community, a shared Roman identity that transcended individual wealth or status outside the bathhouse walls. And while the primary purpose was cleansing and relaxation, the baths were also unofficial business centers. Imagine striking a deal or finalizing a contract while casually scraping oil from your skin. Many important decisions were likely made, and many fortunes gained or lost amidst the steam and chatter. It was a place where information flowed freely, making it an invaluable hub for networking. One quirky tidbit: some very wealthy Romans had private bath suites within their own villas, often just as elaborate as public ones, reflecting their desire for both luxury and privacy, even as they enjoyed the public bath culture. But for the vast majority, the public baths were the only option, and a beloved one at that. Beyond the simple act of cleaning, the Roman baths were also deeply intertwined with ancient medical practices and theories of health. Roman physicians, influenced by Greek ideas, believed strongly in the therapeutic benefits of hot and cold water. The progressive temperature changes from the tepidarium to the calidarium, and finally the frigidarium, were not just for pleasure, but were thought to stimulate circulation, open pores to release toxins, and generally invigorate the body. You might see individuals undergoing specific hydrotherapy treatments for various ailments, prescribed by their doctor. It was, in many ways, an early form of spa medicine, where the properties of water were harnessed for healing. Historians still argue whether the perceived health benefits were primarily psychological or had measurable physiological effects. The olive oil used for cleansing wasn't just a solvent for dirt. It was also believed to nourish the skin. Applied after the scraping, sometimes mixed with herbs or perfumes, it acted as a moisturizer and a protective barrier. You might encounter specific blends recommended for skin conditions, muscle aches, or even to promote relaxation. This emphasis on external application of oils and unguents was a cornerstone of Roman personal care, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of botanical properties, even if their chemical knowledge was rudimentary. One quirky tidbit: some Romans even used a type of perfumed mud or clay, particularly from certain volcanic regions, applying it to their skin for purported detoxifying or beautifying effects before scraping it off. It sounds a bit like a very earthy face mask, doesn't it? Beyond the water and oil, the baths facilitated other aspects of Roman well-being. Exercise in the palaestra before bathing was considered crucial for health, preparing the body for the thermal shock. Massages were also common, often performed by skilled slaves or attendants after the bath, further aiding muscle relaxation and circulation. Imagine the gentle kneading of tired limbs, helping you fully unwind after a long day of Roman life. This comprehensive approach to physical well-being, exercise, hygiene, relaxation, and even nascent medical treatments, underscores the bath's central role in maintaining a healthy Roman citizenry. You'd also observe a fascinating array of ancient remedies and cures being discussed, or even administered within the bath complexes. While not formal hospitals, the social and often leisurely atmosphere allowed for the informal exchange of medical advice. You might overhear discussions about herbal remedies for indigestion, salves for minor injuries, or even strange concoctions for promoting sleep. Remember, this was a time before readily available pharmaceuticals, so people relied heavily on traditional knowledge, sometimes passed down through generations, and often shared in public spaces like the baths. The ambient sounds of the bathhouse, the gentle splashing and murmuring voices, would have been a backdrop to countless such informal consultations, making the baths not just a place of physical cleansing, but also a hub for shared knowledge about the vagaries of the human body. The sheer cost of building and maintaining these monumental bath complexes was astronomical, leading us to consider how they were financed. Often, they were funded by the state, built by emperors as a grand gesture of public benevolence and a symbol of imperial power. Imagine the Emperor Caracalla, for instance, commissioning his massive baths not just for the benefit of the Roman populace, but also to solidify his legacy and garner popular support. These colossal projects were feats of political will as much as engineering. Providing free or extremely cheap access to these elaborate facilities was a highly effective way for emperors to win favor with the common people, acting as a crucial piece of the bread and circuses strategy to keep the populace content and less prone to rebellion. However, state funding wasn't the only model. Wealthy private citizens, known as philanthropists, though perhaps with a healthy dose of self-interest, would also fund the construction or renovation of smaller baths. These individuals might be aspiring politicians, eager to win votes, or simply rich patricians seeking to enhance their public image. Imagine a wealthy Roman patron having accumulated vast sums, deciding to bestow a new bathing complex upon his local town. This act of public generosity would earn him immense prestige, even leading to statues erected in his honor or inscriptions detailing his benefactions. It was a symbiotic relationship. The public benefited from the facilities, and the elites benefited from the social and political capital gained. Historians still argue whether these philanthropic acts were genuine altruism or primarily calculated political maneuvers. The operational costs were also significant. Fueling the hypocaust systems required vast quantities of wood, which in turn necessitated a robust supply chain and a small army of laborers. Think of the endless cartloads of timber arriving daily, destined for the roaring furnaces beneath the bathhouse floors. Then there were the thousands of gallons of fresh water needed, supplied by Rome's impressive aqueduct system. This constant flow of water, along with the drainage systems, represented another layer of complex infrastructure and ongoing expense. Even the entrance fees, though typically very low, often just a single quadrans, the smallest Roman coin, equivalent to a modern penny, contributed to the upkeep. For example, if you were a Roman citizen, you could likely afford this nominal fee without a second thought. For children, access was often even cheaper or free. This low barrier to entry ensured that the baths were truly accessible to nearly everyone, regardless of their economic standing. One quirky tidbit: some very wealthy individuals or entire families would sometimes pay a larger annual sum to ensure VIP access, or even small private changing rooms, subtly distinguishing themselves from the general throng even within these ostensibly democratic spaces. It seems that even in ancient Rome, there were levels to the VIP experience. While bathers luxuriated in the warm pools and socialized in the tepidarium, a hidden workforce toiled tirelessly to keep these vast complexes running. This brings us to the often overlooked lives of the slaves and staff who maintained the Roman baths. Imagine hundreds, perhaps thousands of individuals, mostly slaves, working behind the scenes. They were the unsung heroes of Roman hygiene, responsible for everything from stoking the roaring furnaces of the hypocaust system to fetching fresh water, cleaning the pools, and assisting bathers. Their days would have been long and arduous, a stark contrast to the leisurely pace of the patrons they served. The furnace stokers, or fornicari, would have endured incredibly hot and smoky conditions, constantly feeding wood into the hungry furnaces beneath the floors. Their work was physically demanding and vital to the entire operation. You might imagine the rhythmic shoveling of fuel, the crackle and roar of the flames, and the sweat pouring from their bodies, even as the bathers above them enjoyed the comfortable warmth. Without their continuous labor, the complex infrastructure of the baths would simply cease to function. Historians still argue about the precise number of enslaved people required to operate a major bathhouse, and the specific dangers associated with their tasks. Beyond the fornicarii, there were numerous other roles. You'd have attendants, often young slaves, who would carry bathers' belongings, assist with the application of oils, and perform the dreaded strigil scraping. Imagine the intimate yet strictly hierarchical interaction between bather and attendant, the latter performing a service that, while essential, marked their subservient status. There were also masseurs, often highly skilled, who would knead away the tensions of the day. Others would be responsible for cleaning the immense pools, scrubbing marble floors, and ensuring the complex remained spotless. It was a constant battle against dirt, grime, and the sheer volume of human traffic. Even beyond the manual labor, some slaves held more administrative roles, managing supplies, collecting fees, or overseeing the various departments. They were, in essence, the gears of a massive, well-oiled machine, ensuring that the Roman bath experience remained seamless for its users. One quirky tidbit: it wasn't uncommon for freedmen, former slaves who had gained their freedom, to find work within the baths, sometimes even rising to positions of management, showcasing a rare avenue for social mobility within the confines of this specific industry. This suggests that while the work was demanding, it could also offer a path to a better life for some. When we talk about Roman baths, certain names immediately spring to mind, synonymous with monumental grandeur and engineering prowess. You might recall the baths of Caracalla in Rome, perhaps the most famous and certainly one of the most magnificent. Imagine their colossal scale, sprawling across acres, capable of hosting over 1,600 bathers simultaneously. The sheer size alone is breathtaking, with soaring arches, vast halls, and intricate mosaics. It wasn't just a bathhouse. It was a sprawling leisure complex, complete with gardens, libraries, and even art galleries. The ruins still stand today, a testament to Roman ambition and architectural skill, making you feel tiny in comparison to their ancient splendor. But Roman baths weren't confined to the Eternal City. As the empire expanded, so too did the bathing culture, spreading to its farthest reaches. You could find impressive bath complexes in places like Bath in England. Yes, that's where the name comes from. Built over natural hot springs. Imagine the Roman legions, far from the Mediterranean sun, finding comfort and a taste of home in these warm, mineral-rich waters. The Great Bath at Aquae Sulis, as it was known, was a significant religious and social center for the Romans in Britannia, showcasing how deeply integrated bathing was into their lives, regardless of geography. Historians still argue whether the local Celtic populations fully embraced Roman bathing customs or merely tolerated them. Then there are the baths of Diocletian, another behemoth in Rome, even larger than Caracalla's, designed to accommodate over 3,000 bathers. A substantial part of these baths was later converted into the Basilica of Santa Maria degli Angeli e dei Martiri by Michelangelo, and parts still house the National Roman Museum. It's a remarkable example of ancient structures being repurposed for new eras, yet still retaining echoes of their original grandeur. You can walk through what were once vast halls of steam and splashing water, now silent and hallowed spaces. Beyond the well-known giants, countless smaller, yet equally vital public baths dotted every Roman town and military outpost. Imagine the local bathhouse in a quiet provincial town, perhaps less opulent than its imperial counterparts, but no less central to the daily lives of its residents. These smaller baths provided the same essential services and social functions, becoming the heart of local communities. One quirky tidbit: archaeological digs often uncover small, personal items lost by bathers: coins, hairpins, rings, even children's toys, offering a very intimate glimpse into the everyday lives of those who used these spaces. It's almost as if they left a little piece of themselves behind for us to discover millennia later, a testament to the enduring human habit of misplacing things.